question. Where are all my good girls at? Listen, it's a little harder to answer this one, I know. But maybe this will resonate with you if you are. I have spent the majority of my life living under the belief that in order to take a step in life, I needed someone's approval on what that thing was and somebody's permission to move. I realize now, looking back, that I might not have had that exactly correct, especially when it came to following the trail of my life's work. That little good girl is me. She's got a certificate, so it's very official. This was taken right before my family moved from our longtime home, a border town in South Texas, and we moved here to Littleton, Colorado. I remember my first day of school, 9 years old, 4th grade. I came out onto the playground, looking around the kids on the monkey bars, chasing each other around. And I became keenly aware that one of these things was not like the other. Nobody looked like me. I thought, no problem, I got this. I've never had trouble making friends, so although I was very self-conscious, I was optimistic. So I went into class. Teacher asked a question. I raised my hand, good girl style, waited for the permission to speak. I did. And just as I did, a girl across the room stood up. And she looked at me with disdain in her eyes. And she said, "Shut up, you," insert racial comment here. I was devastated because, well, not only did she get my ethnicity wrong, she called me out for being different. And she said because I didn't deserve to speak. So I stood up, tears pouring down my face, and I said, "That is the most insulting thing anyone has ever said to me." And wouldn't you know it, for standing up for myself, I got in trouble. Later that day, you would found me curled into a little ball, crying on my parents' bathroom floor for hours. I didn't understand quite what had happened, but I knew I had been changed. It wasn't until years later when I look back at that I realized 2 things happened that day. 1, that was the first time I ever realized that I was other. And 2, that's when I first started believing that my voice didn't matter. Fast forward some 27 years later to this past August, when I did something crazy. Yes, that's right. I left a great job with nothing lined up and no plan. I know, right? This is because my heart, my soul, my intuition were whispering and then screaming at me that I was on the wrong path. And as I mentioned before, I always looked for external validation, people telling me when it was okay to move. I wanted someone to say, it's okay for you to lead, and lead with the gifts that you have and the way you want to use them. Chorus life doesn't work like that. I remember at the beginning of my career sitting in meetings with this Hermione Granger type energy, just so excited. I had to sit on my hands because I wanted to speak so badly. Till later in my career when it just became this quiet dejection because I thought, well, if somebody even did call on me to speak, what I had to say wouldn't matter anyway. So I got quiet. And my light, my inner light dimmed so low. I had this sadness just carried around with me everywhere, and I felt honestly worthless. I didn't know I was here. And my closest friends and family didn't even know because I'm a good girl, you guys. I smile. I tell you I'm fine, and then I ask, how can I help you? Well, listen, it's not that I didn't have great jobs over my lifetime. It wasn't that. It's just that I kept trying to fit this Chelley-shaped peg into this round hole, and I did not fit. I had to disconnect from myself in order to survive, and I realized that's not the way it was going to be for me. The cost of living a life that was wrong for me was going to be greater than the risk of perhaps maybe not having a paycheck for a while. So I took this big running leap, knowing that no matter what, I would land on my feet. But that's not what this is about. I wanted to fly. So I took the big leap, And I made a blog about it because, that's what we do now. And I wanted to share my stories because I thought if even one person said, you know what, I find comfort in that because I too would like to live my life's purpose, then for me it would be worth it. So what stops us from doing that thing? Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of being seen differently by people who are used to seeing you a certain way. Fear of not having the resources to make it through a transition like this. What about the fear that the message you feel in your heart is the one you are meant to bring is already being said by someone else? Let me tell you though, two people can say the exact same thing and have completely different meanings. For example, if I were to say to you, the tragedy is not to die, but to be wasted. That might hit you differently than the person I first heard it from, this guy. Yeah, Hannibal Lecter and I may resonate with you differently. All that to say, speak your heart anyway. There is nobody more qualified to speak your truth than you. How would it feel to have the freedom to be you everywhere you went? Oh, freedom. That is a good word. I feel that in my body. When I say freedom to me, my breath drops into my belly. My chest expands, and I get these tingles across my upper back when something is true. When I'm on the wrong path, I feel like I'm carrying a sack of rocks in my stomach, and my chest contracts, my breath gets small, and I get very lethargic. Our bodies are so wise. They tell us things we don't even realize are happening, and I bet if you thought about it, you could identify those things within you too. So what happens when we choose to ignore those things? There is a cost to that, to our bodies, our minds, our spirit, our relationships. How about the job you're doing now? Do you show up every day halfway because you aren't inspired, you don't feel appreciated, and you just show up till you can clock out? And then you come home and you have a glass or bottle of wine, take the edge off, forget about things for a little while. Then you do it again the next day and the next, and you start to get irritated because your loved ones keep wanting things from you, and you just explode at them because you weren't able to identify the things that you needed for help. Did you disconnect from your own inner voice so much that you don't even know what it says anymore? And have you become your own worst bully? What about your pocketbook? How much are you spending on things to just make you happy for a little while, right? How much money do we spend on that? And what about our time? How many minutes a day are you spending complaining versus creating? Wouldn't it be better to just take the leap already? I did. And let me tell you, I do not have all of the answers. I am still figuring this out as I go. But you know what? I know now I'm back on path. As one of my teachers, Rebecca Campbell, put so beautifully, I am following the trail of things that light me up. And for me, that's building community, speaking, teaching, healing, singing and dancing, writing. I'm not 9 years old anymore. And I know now that my voice matters because in here, I know it matters. I look back at that little girl with so much compassion and with so much love for feeling that she had to play small to stay safe, and for believing that she had no choice but to give away her power. And now I know it's time to let her go. So my wish for you, my invitation, is that when you have some time for yourself, take a piece of paper, sit down, tune in, and think to yourself, what is that thing in my wildest dreams that I would do if I wasn't scared? And then make a list, write down all the ways that it's costing you to stay on a path that is not right for you. And realize you can choose that at any time. You just have to make that decision. You're the only one who can do that. But I'm just gonna say it. It might not be easy. Things might get worse before they get better. There will be sacrifices involved, whether it's money or relationships or what have you, but for my money, when you look back years down the line to this moment, you're gonna thank yourself and say, because I was brave, I was able to change my life forever, and look at where I am now. So, what is the world missing out on while you wait for permission? I can promise you that each and every single one of you is filled with gifts and talents that are just waiting to be seen. Please don't let your gifts go unrealized. Because it's like I always say, the tragedy is not to die, but to be wasted. Thank you.